So I just want to show you this amazing piece of technology. It's called the Bolex H16 Reflex camera. This is a Super 16. No, it's not. This is a standard 16mm format camera. But what's amazing about it is that it runs completely from mechanical power, so a spring power. So the way that this camera works is you wind it up and then it So what you need to understand that's so amazing is from a spring, from a wound up spring, it is advancing the film one frame, opening the shutter, closing the shutter, and then advancing the film another frame, and is doing that 24 times a second, and with this camera up to 64 times a second. So 64 times a second, it is doing the mechanical action of advancing film 64 times a second, and that's all coming from this spring that I'm just winding up like this. So I just wanted to show you how to load it, what some of these controls do. We're going to turn that back down to 24 frames a second, and don't leave it wound up, don't leave the spring tight. You want to run it out, don't let it sit there for a while. So here's another great feature of the camera is you can put 3 lenses on it, and the way you change them is just by turning this turret. So you just, I've got my long lens up top, my medium lens in the middle, and my wide lens back here, which isn't locking into place, but whatever, there's something going on there. But you can just switch your lenses real quick. These are nice lenses. You can find them very reasonably priced on eBay anymore. So here's how the camera is loaded. So we open up that back gate, and if you open the gate and this black film spool isn't present, you're in a bad situation because you're not going to be able to use the camera. So at some point this needs to be on there, and then for the life of the camera, this camera's from the 1970s, every time it gets changed, the previous one needs to stay in the camera so that the next person can run 100 feet of film. This holds 100 feet of film. Today we're working with Kodak Vision 3 50D. It is 50 ASA or ISO, or that's how much I know. It's a very slow film, so for shooting on like the beach, like where we are right now in Avalon, New Jersey. So what's cool about these daylight spools, they're called daylight spools, is that it means you can load film in broad daylight like we are right now. Some people would say, no, go into a dark room, but you don't have to be in a dark room. What it means if you do it in broad daylight is that the very end of the film might burn out, but I kind of quite like that effect, and I'll show you kind of what that does. But so as long as the first couple seconds or the last couple seconds of your film aren't crucial to what you're shooting, and you might even like having them kind of, so when I'm at the end of 100 feet of this film, what I do is I find a really cool shot, and then I just run it until it burns out, and then that becomes this kind of beautiful, like it burns into example here. So here's what it looks like pulling the film out. This is 100 feet of 50D Kodak Vision 3 color film. So what we want to do is take this daylight spool that was on the top of the camera here, and we're going to transfer it down to the bottom of the camera, to the lower one. You see they have these helpful arrows here. Okay, this is going to be the worst tutorial ever, but I will show you how to do this. Take the tape off. You don't want to run tape through your camera. It's a bad idea. So the very first thing you do is don't make the mistake I just did of not winding the camera first. So we're going to really quickly give it a little bit of a wind. Doesn't have to be a ton, just enough to be able to load the camera. Now, if you look at the internals here, it's amazing. I mean, it's incredible what this is doing, and this is from the 1970s. But anyway, we won't harp on that. What we want to do is turn this little guy, this little John here, and that scoops in those guys, and this puts the camera in the mode where it can load. So you want to put your film here. You're going to get it to slightly thread here, and you're going to press this button, and you're going to watch the film run right through that gate. And look at that, it came out the other side just the way we planned it. And now you want to get, there's a little slot, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little slot in the daylight spool, and we want to kind of thread our film in there and then wrap it up a little bit like this and get that on there. And now don't forget to do this, undo that little loading thing, and now you've got this little loop here, this little loop here. By the way, yes, all of this film that we're looking at right now is being exposed to the light. It's going to have this beautiful kind of burned out orange look when we get there. But all of the film that's inside here, this 100 feet, which is about 3 minutes of film, is all going to look absolutely beautiful just the way that you want it to look. Now, just to make sure that it is working, let's just, yep, it's working, it's running. I'm going to close it up like so, and now we're ready to shoot. This is like a poor man's neutral density filter. You can actually put neutral density in here in kind of rattan form. You could put a filter right behind. This is your old school internal ND filter. It's a shame you can't do this with cameras now. You have to put big things on the front of your lens that you're worried are gonna scratch and stuff like that. But the poor man's ND filter is this little switch, which basically is just changing the shutter angle, and it has a little half and then it has a 1, and this means that you can make it so it stopped down 1 stop, and in your viewfinder it's going to show you this little stick that lets you know it's stopped down 1 stop. And by stop down I probably mean closed down, which is a different thing to say. Maybe it's not. I clearly know what I'm talking about. So right here you have your feet counter, which is going to show you as it counts from 0 to 100. As it approaches 100, that's when you want to just run your final shot and have fun. This is where you choose your frames per second. This is obviously how you wind it, and when you're done winding it, you just pop it in there. This is where, if you want, you can run it and have it continuously run by moving that to the M position. You can also take single frames one at a time by going like that. Your viewfinder. Now this is a reflex camera, so it's showing you in the viewfinder, it's showing you exactly what the lens is seeing. Now what that means though is that the amount of light coming to your eye is maybe a little lower than you would expect for a viewfinder, so it can be a little dim in there without, and that you have to meter everything yourself and figure out exactly what you should be stopped down to on your lens, because this doesn't have a light meter or anything like that. One little note here is that if you look in the viewfinder and there's nothing there, this is probably closed, which is just a way that, so if you open it up, show you that red dot. The reason for that is because light can actually come in through the viewfinder and give you a couple frames that are overexposed. It's just lots of ways that people try to protect film from light, because film and light are both best friends and worst enemies. So that's the Bolex H16 Reflex. This is the best example of one that I've ever come across. I swear to you, I mean, it's covered in sand now because I take it on the beach, but I swear to you that when I got it out of the box, it looked like almost no one had ever used it. It's a beautiful machine, and they just don't make things anymore that are mechanical that can do this much stuff. And remember, the footage that comes out of this is higher resolution, like resolvable resolution, than HD today. So I mean, and it's gorgeous because it's film, so it has that color that everybody's we spend a whole bunch of time trying to make our digital stuff look like film, we'll just shoot it on the Bolex.